Welcome to the Health Revolution, and as viewers to this program will be aware, we humans are meant to be healthy and happy by default. Have you ever wondered, for instance, why doctors who see so many ill people all day long don't actually seem to get ill very often? Yes, they take the odd day off, but they're usually there despite all those so-called germs that they're being barraged with. Perhaps the theory of germs is wrong, and in fact, even Louis Pasteur, who developed the theory of germs, on his deathbed said actually it's not the germs, it's the terrain. In other words, it's the body, the environment, that allows a susceptibility to illness. You know, almost everybody at autopsy is found to have the TB virus within them, and it may be that it's not that oh no. Unfortunately, my camera's just gone off and I don't know why. Let's take us, for example. We're working hard. We're maybe not feeling our best, but it's the day we decide to take a few days off and go on holiday. That's when we get the colds and the flus. People say, oh, well, I caught all these germs on the aeroplane. Well, I'm not at all convinced you caught the germs on the aeroplane. I just think your body said, okay, now you're relaxed. Now's a perfect time to get ill and get all the mucus out, all the debris. And I believe that every illness that occurs has a very valid purpose. Now, the next two items I want to speak to about, I'm very grateful to Dr. John Bergman, who I hope to have on the show at some later point. He very interestingly pointed out the Helsinki study. Now, for 18 years, they followed a group of businessmen, the ones who absolutely took no medical advice whatsoever, didn't have any need to visit the doctors. They lived, or I should say, only half as many of them died as the ones who went to see the doctors. Now, the ones who went to see the doctors and got cardiovascular medicine, 4 times the number died. Now, this is sort of fairly extraordinary. John also pointed out the wonderful thing about atrial fibrillation, when your heart isn't beating in a proper, regular fashion. What happens is that in those cases, there's a 6% chance of dying with heart failure as a result of atrial fibrillation. However, if you take warfarin, the most commonly prescribed drug for this, that cuts it from, there's a 6% chance of dying, cuts it down to a 3% chance of dying. Now, that means that let's put it the other way around, and we say 94% of people wouldn't die, but with warfarin, reduces it to 97%. So it's good, but it's a 3% difference. So when they're telling you about the benefits of warfarin and why you should need it, do they tell you there's a 3% difference? No, they work figures in a very cunning way. They say, well, 100% would be no deaths, 97% is what we can achieve with warfarin, 94% is what we can achieve without it. So therefore, the difference between 94 and 97 is 3, the difference between 97 and 100 is 3. Therefore, they turn 3% into 100% because they compare 97 with 94, but using the 3 part of it. So they claim it's 100% more successful. Yes, it is. It's 3% more successful, but they call that 100%. So do be aware of some of these figures. They're incredibly misleading. Now, what if I could tell you that there was one single food product that could probably be so important that you'd write some books on it. Our guest tonight, Dr. Bruce Fife, has written books called The New Arthritis Cure, Stop Autism Now, Stop Alzheimer's Now, Eat Fat, Look Thin. And so I want to introduce Dr. Bruce Fife now. Bruce, are you there?
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Colorado Springs. And first thing I'd like to speak to you about are some of the more remarkable results you've had, possibly before you even tell us what those remarkable results were caused by. Would you like to tell us a few remarkable things?
Well, for Alzheimer's, for example, currently the medicines that are prescribed for Alzheimer's aren't very good. The absolute best you could hope for is to slow down the degeneration slightly. No drug can stop the progression of the disease, and absolutely no drug can reverse it. And the drugs that are available, they only work on about half the people that use them. And in those people that there is an effect, the effect only lasts from 6 to 12 months, and then it stops working, and then it's totally useless. Yet there are natural means that can stop the progression of Alzheimer's and even reverse it.
And perhaps we should, at this point, let the cat out of the bag for the benefit of our viewers. What is your number one Alzheimer's cure?
Coconut oil.
Precisely. An amazing food. And I think people may be incredibly surprised that such a simple and inexpensive and rather tasty food can affect Alzheimer's in such a dramatic way. The first time I heard of it, prior to discovering your work, was Dr. Mary Newport and her husband. I think that's quite an interesting story. Would you like to relate that one?
Sure, it's a fascinating story. In fact, Dr. Newport contacted me during the process of her discovering this, and her husband had Alzheimer's. He had early onset Alzheimer's. He started getting Alzheimer's in his early 50s. And after he'd had it for about 5 or 6 years, she'd been trying everything. She put him on all the drugs, and they didn't seem to do any good. Of course not, because they don't work very well anyways. But she was getting desperate, and she, being a doctor, she wanted to try anything that she could find. So she started to look for experimental medicines that were coming down, and she wanted to enroll him in some of these studies with these medicines. So as she was looking at the data on new medicines, she found one that showed particular promise. In preliminary studies, after a single dose, patients showed improvement. And this is unheard of. No drug, no Alzheimer's drug has ever shown this. And so she was really excited to have him enter into this study. Well, before he could actually participate, he had to go in for an examination and have a test. And one of the tests they had him do was a mini mental status exam, in which he answered several questions. This test evaluates the degree of Alzheimer's, the degree of dementia. And there's 30 questions in the test. And if you answer 25 or more correctly, you're considered okay. Between 25 and 20, it indicates mild dementia, and from about 20 to 10 is moderate dementia. Anything below 10 would be severe. Well, he took the test and he scored a 12. So he was almost into the severe stage of dementia. He scored so poorly that he was rejected from the study. He was considered beyond help, hopeless, and so they sent him home. Well, you can tell that, the Newports felt really bad about this, but Dr. Newport researched this drug, and in her research, she came across the patent application for it. And in this application, it had all the preliminary research, the theory behind it, and it also had the basic formula for the drug. And in this drug, there was only one active ingredient, and that ingredient was medium-chain fatty acids derived from coconut oil. Coconut oil is composed predominantly of medium-chain fatty acids, and it's these medium-chain fatty acids in coconut oil that give it most of its health-promoting properties and is what makes it different from every other oil in our diet. So what she decided to do is, since she couldn't get a hold of the medicine, she decided to give him coconut oil. So she went down to her local health food store and bought a jar of coconut oil and brought it home. And then she gave him, what she did is she calculated how much of the medium chain fatty acids that they were using in the studies. And so she calculated that and translated it into coconut oil. And it came to 2.5 tablespoons of coconut oil. So about 2 weeks later, she started him on this coconut oil. And in the morning, she put 2.5 tablespoons in his oatmeal. And that afternoon, they had an exam with their doctor. And so he went in, and the doctor had him retake the MMSE test that he had taken before, just 2 weeks before. He took the test, and he scored an 18. And this is unheard of because Alzheimer's patients always get worse. They never get better. So he went from a 12 to an 18. And basically, this was done with just one dose of coconut oil in the morning. And so this proved to them that coconut oil is working. So she continued to give it to him after that. And over the next year, he improved tremendously. He had lost the ability to read, to spell, to type on a computer keyboard. He was even having difficulty dressing himself. But within that year, he was able to dress himself properly, to eat properly. He regained the ability to read and to type on a computer keyboard. He was able to get on the computer and surf the internet. He was feeling well enough that he actually volunteered his services at the hospital, working in their shipping and receiving department.
Incredible, isn't it? And
it's amazing.
How? I mean, that was, what was that, about 3 years ago or something like that? I wonder how he is now, today, whether he's got all his marbles back or almost all of them, or do you know?
Well, I've kept in touch with him, and he has improved. He hasn't recovered totally from the dementia, because he'd been in dementia for 5 to 6 years before he even started this program, and there was probably some permanent damage that was done in that length of time. But he is doing fairly well. He even states that when he was in dementia before the coconut oil, it was like he was in a room without any windows and the lights were turned off. It was dark. He had a hard time thinking. And when he started taking coconut oil, it was like someone switched on the light and he could see. And he said, with coconut oil, I've got my life back.
It's incredible, isn't it? And if he'd been taking the coconut oil just as a food supplement regularly prior to that, presumably never would have had the problem in the first place.
That's exactly right, and that's what his wife believes too. In fact, she was actually kind of angry because this information, the science behind all this, has been around for many years, but no one brought it out to light. No one presented it until she started digging in this patent application and found the research that they had done, which was all from public access information from journals that had been around for many years. And she believes that if she had started him on coconut oil years before that he became diagnosed with dementia, she would have prevented his Alzheimer's disease completely. And that's true. I believe it as well.
Yes, well, I do as well. And I've seen similar reversals of Alzheimer's, I mean, just beyond belief, and so quickly. That was what surprised me. So, I mean, if we were to take a maintenance dose, would 1 tablespoonful be enough? If you want to ward off these problems, what do you think?
Well, I would actually recommend anywhere between 1 to 3 tablespoons a day as a maintenance dose before any symptoms start. That's a good start.
So let's say we now have 100 patients all lined up like that gentleman. How many of them do you think would get as good a reaction? How extraordinary was he, or how normal was he?
Well, when they went to see the doctor before he started taking the coconut oil, the last doctor they saw the day before he actually started the coconut oil told the Newports that he was now entering the severe stages of Alzheimer's. So, and now he would be classified in the mild stage. So he basically went from severe Alzheimer's to mild Alzheimer's, where he could still function, he can still dress, he can still feed himself, he can still more or less take care of himself. And even, as I mentioned before, get on the computer, surf the internet, and even work in the shipping and receiving department at the hospital. But there is some difference in how people respond to it. And those people who have mild cases or have not been troubled with Alzheimer's for a long time, those are the ones that are going to really show dramatic improvements. And in some cases, even completely be cured, I'll say the cure word, cured from Alzheimer's. And there are people who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, even moderate levels of Alzheimer's, who have been able to completely come out of Alzheimer's disease and be normal again. But again, if someone has very severe Alzheimer's, or they've had Alzheimer's for many, many years, then you're not going to see complete recovery. You're going to see improvement. Even in severe cases where there's really no hope for major improvement, you will see some improvement. The patients will have more energy. They will be more alert. They'll be more responsive. So even no matter what level they're at, they're going to see some benefit.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yep.
Another subject that I know that you're an expert about, and is perhaps the most important of all the subjects in ways that's to do with children, is autism. Because, as I mentioned at the start of the show, you've written a book specifically about autism, and I think that's dear to all our hearts as to what we do with these ever-growing number of children who are so desperately damaged. And so perhaps you could tell us some about that.
Yeah, it's amazing that coconut oil can have such an effect on the brain. And whether it's Alzheimer's disease, autism, MS, or Parkinson's disease, coconut oil can help the brain. Coconut oil is the ultimate brain food. And the reason for that is that the brain uses two primary sources of energy. One is glucose, and the other is another form of energy called ketones. And our bodies make ketones out of stored fat. And what happens in the brain is when there's inflammation that occurs in the brain, it causes what's known as insulin resistance. It's kind of like diabetes. The brain actually develops a form of diabetes where it cannot absorb glucose effectively. And so if it can't absorb glucose, then it starts to die and to degenerate. And with an older person, that would translate into Alzheimer's disease. In a younger person where the brain is still growing and developing, that could develop into autism. And so what the brain now needs is another source of energy, since it can't utilize glucose. Well, ketones provide that energy, but the body only makes ketones when we're not eating, when fasting. And so the body doesn't have access to enough ketones to prevent brain degeneration. However, here's the wonderful thing about coconut oil. The medium-chain fatty acids that make up coconut oil, when we eat them, a portion of them are automatically converted into ketones. And you can actually consume enough coconut oil to have a therapeutic effect, to have therapeutic levels of ketones in your body that can feed the brain. Even though the brain may not be able to absorb glucose efficiently, it can absorb ketones. And one of the other benefits with ketones is that ketones are higher potency forms of energy. They provide more energy than glucose does. It's like putting high performance gasoline in your car. You get better gas mileage. You have more power. Well, ketones do the same thing with our brains. And so if we have enough ketones flowing through our bloodstream, feeding our brain, it can keep the brain alive and active so the brain cells don't die. And not only keep them alive, but actually stimulate repair and healing. And this is why when Alzheimer's patients start taking coconut oil, they can actually show improvement. And the same thing goes with autism too. Children, when they're given the ketones, their brain gets the nourishment that they need to grow and develop normally and to reverse damage that has been done.
That's incredible, isn't it? And perhaps you could talk a little bit about how responsive the autistic children are. Do they respond as quickly as in Alzheimer's patients, or perhaps even quicker? And how full are recoveries? You know, how often is that the key component, or are there many other key components?
Well, coconut oil in both Alzheimer's and in autism is the key component, but it's not necessarily the only component. You can enhance the effects of the coconut oil with a proper diet. And what is a proper diet? Well, I recommend a diet that would support the production of ketones within the body. And that can be done with a low-carb diet, particularly a ketogenic diet where the body produces ketones from its own stored fat, which is a ketogenic diet is a very low-carb diet, actually a high-fat, low-carb diet, but you're supposed to be eating coconut oil in it too, so the coconut oil supplies that added fat. And in both cases, you know, Alzheimer's, autism, the response is individual. It depends on the individual. If the autism has been there for many, many years, if it's very severe, the reversal is going to take longer, and it may not be as dramatic as if you got a child who was very young, 4, 5, 6 years old, and started them on this program. You can see complete recoveries. And
I know some autistic children who are now in their late teens, and if you like, nothing has worked pretty much. Almost all the conventional things that one might want to try, and that one knows about. If they haven't tried coconut oil, could they still expect some changes, even though they've been super scrupulous following the advice of actually sensible people? If they haven't tried coconut oil, is there still hope, do you think?
Yes, there's still hope. Now, at that late age, I don't know that they may get full recovery, but they should get improvement. You know, the brain continues to grow and develop until we reach about the age of 20. And so even someone in their teens, their brain has some growth and development to achieve. And so if you start them on the right nutrients, you give them the energy that the brain needs, it's going to improve. So even in the teens, there will be some definite improvement, if not total recovery.
Oh, that's really excellent. And one of your other books, of course, is about arthritis. And myself, 28 years ago now, something like that, I got arthritis so badly that I was crippled and couldn't walk or work or anything. For me, the cure turned out to be vitamins and minerals and changing my diet. But I'd be very interested to know what your feelings are there and how important coconut oil, again, is in that equation.
Well, again, I believe coconut oil is the key to this equation. Diet as well is the key, because my belief is that arthritis stems from two things. It stems from a weakened immune system and from because of the weakened immune system, infection can get into the joints. And because the body is unable to fight off the infection, then the joints become inflamed and sore. Now, with coconut oil, here's another totally new aspect about it. The medium chain fatty acids in coconut oil are antimicrobial, meaning that they can kill disease-causing bacteria, viruses, and fungi. And the type of microorganisms that coconut oil has been proven to kill are the ones that are commonly found in arthritic joints, the ones that we know actually cause and contribute to arthritis. So if you start a diet where you can continually take coconut oil, you then have this oil coming into your body and into your joints and fighting this bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, and your body's immune system is given a boost. Coconut oil also boosts and improves the efficiency of the immune system. And if you combine that with a good diet, which also supports the immune system, then your body can overcome arthritis.
Yes, fascinating. And the route that I took with vitamins and minerals then, I didn't know as much as I did now, but it took probably a year for the, horribly ugly bone spurs and stuff all to go down to nothing. Have you seen anything like that where it really is down to sort of bone on bone and incredibly painful? What sort of recovery time have you seen using coconut oil?
Well, it can be incredibly fast. Some people report within just weeks. Some people report months. There was one person that I actually talk about in my book who, she's a woman. She was very physically active. She was a firefighter. She was a rock climber. She loved to scale these mountain cliffs, and all of a sudden she started developing arthritis in her spine and her ankles and her knees. And so she had to give up her sports, her physical activity. She even had to retire from the fire department because she couldn't keep up physically. She even went into the hospital and had surgery on her spine twice to fuse the spine because of the degeneration that was occurring. Well, she learned about coconut oil. She learned about me, so she started adding coconut oil into her diet, and she noticed a remarkable improvement. Within just about 4 weeks, she was able to walk distances that she hadn't done for a long time. She was able to go upstairs. She used to have to basically crawl up the stairs. But after a month, there was a dramatic improvement. And it took maybe about, 3 or 4 months to the point where the pain had disappeared, that she was starting to run again and be physically active again. And now she actually participates in her rock climbing again. She can scale up those cliffs without the pain, and she has the strength to be able to do that now. In fact, in my book, I have a picture of her clinging on the side of a mountain, as she's scaling it.
Fantastic. And another one that I read about that coconut oil has a brilliant effect of is epilepsy, and I found that very interesting. Would you say it could be a complete cure, or what?
It could be a help. Again, coconut oil is a major benefit to epilepsy, and when you combine it with a proper diet, it enhances the diet enhances the coconut oil, and the coconut oil enhances the diet. And with epilepsy, the diet best for that is a ketogenic diet. In fact, ketogenic diet has been used to treat epilepsy since the 1920s. And the ketogenic diet has proven to be far superior in its effects than any drug that has ever been developed. In fact, those people who suffer from this condition and do not see any appreciable benefit from drugs, who are considered basically hopeless, that they don't respond to any of the drugs, well, what they do is they put them on a ketogenic diet and they see dramatic benefits. And the general program lasts usually for 2 years. They put people on the ketogenic diet for 2 years, and after 2 years, they're either completely cured or they've improved so much that seizures are far between, and so there's dramatic improvement.
So do many doctors know what a ketogenic diet actually is? They'd be familiar with it, would they?
Well, they hear about the ketogenic diet in school, and there probably takes about 5 minutes of instruction. That's probably all they learn in school. So they've heard about it, but really most doctors don't know much about it. And most doctors are kind of, I think, leery of it because it's a diet. It's not a medication. It's not a drug. And so, they tend to steer patients to a drug solution rather than a dietary solution.
Yes, quite. And you mentioned MS. I mean, that's obviously another very, very, very difficult one for many, many people, and they always assume it's going to get worse. I've seen MS reversed, but not with coconut oil. Perhaps you could tell us about, again, what stages. If they're in a wheelchair, is there still hope? At what stage do you feel that it's too far, and at what stage have you seen great success?
Well, you see, with the medium-chain fatty acids being converted into ketones, the ketones are the magicians, the healers that are in the body, because the ketones can be used by almost every cell in the body. But the nerves are the ones that really, and actually the heart too, the nerves and the heart, the cells in these organs love ketones. And when they are provided with the ketones, it actually has a therapeutic effect on them. Not only does it feed them, but it actually triggers the healing mechanism. In fact, in the brain, ketones actually trigger certain proteins in the brain that are responsible for maintenance and repair of nerve tissue. And so MS is a nerve condition, and so the nerves actually can repair themselves. The condition can reverse and get better. And again, it really depends on the severity of the case and how much, permanent damage may have occurred at that point, but significant improvement can happen.
Yes. I've seen MS treated by a medical doctor as an infection. And I've watched him treat that using antibiotics, which I wouldn't be my first choice. But nevertheless, I saw him give a dose of several different types of antibiotics over a 6-week period. And I saw the person go from barely being able to walk to walking up and down and jumping in the air, which puts a new perspective on what MS actually is, I think. Well, what I'd like to talk about, actually, to ask you about, is about the ways that you found as the most palatable and delicious ways to use coconut oil, and again, what type of coconut oil to go for. How important is organic in coconut oil? Obviously, as you know, in some things like meat or dairy, organic's really important. In many vegetables, it's really important. How important is it with coconut oil? And how do we know we're getting a quality one, and how do we start enjoying it?
Well, the easiest way to incorporate coconut oil into your diet is to use it in food preparation. So any recipe that you have that calls for margarine, shortening, vegetable oils, or other type of oils, you can substitute 1-for-1 coconut oil. In fact, coconut oil is an excellent cooking oil. Coconut oil is very stable. It's very heat stable. And so it doesn't break down like other oils. In fact, I don't recommend that you use other vegetable oils such as corn oil or soybean oil or safflower oil. These oils are very delicate and they actually break down very easily. They oxidize when they break down. When they oxidize, is essentially they become rancid. And during this process, they produce what's known as free radicals, and free radicals are molecular entities that actually damage our tissues. They promote premature aging. They promote the wrinkling in our skin, the rough sagginess that's caused in the skin, and throughout our bodies, in fact. The aging spots that people get on their body is caused by free radicals. And so if you use these vegetable oils in your cooking, you're introducing a lot of free radicals into your body that are prematurely aging your body. In fact, cooking actually accelerates the production of free radicals. And so you don't want to use those. But coconut oil, being very stable, does not produce the free radicals. So it's an excellent cooking oil. It's one of the best cooking oils you can use. And so use it for cooking. Now, some people don't use too much, oil in their cooking. Well, that's okay, because you can also include coconut oil in foods that don't normally have oil. You can use it like a spread. Like you use butter, you can put it on bread. You can put it on vegetables. You can also include it into foods that normally you wouldn't put any oil in. For example, you could put it in your oatmeal, or you can put it into soups, into stews. People put it into their hot beverages in the morning. Basically, you can put coconut oil in and on any type of food. It doesn't matter what type it is. And sometimes if you want, you can go up to the jar and put in a spoon and pull it out and eat it by the spoon, kind of like what you would do with a dietary supplement. And I often do that, particularly during the middle of the day when I feel like I need a spoonful of coconut oil. Instead of making something to eat with it, I'll just take a spoonful of it like that. And if you get a good quality coconut oil, it tastes pretty good. And basically, there are two types of coconut oil that you'll see being sold in the stores. And one of them is called a virgin coconut oil, and the other one is known as RBD oil, refined, bleached, and deodorized coconut oil. Basically, the RBD oil has gone through more of a refining process. The virgin coconut oil, like virgin olive oil, has minimal processing. It's as close to nature as you can get. And I prefer that. I think foods that have had the least amount of manipulation are the best for us and contain the highest percentage of nutrients. So the difference between the two, when you go to the store, how do you tell which one is which? Well, the virgin coconut oil will always have the word virgin on it. It may say extra virgin, it may say organic virgin, or anything like that, but it has to have that word virgin on it. The refined oil will not have that word. It may have any other word. It could have organic, it could have natural or pure or anything like that, but it will not have the word virgin. Now, I'm not against the refined oils. I prefer the virgin oil, but even the refined coconut oil still has the medium chain fatty acids that promote good health. Now, it's nice to have organic foods, but you know what? The coconut oil comes from countries like the Philippines and Thailand and things like that. And the people there do not normally spray or fertilize their crops with chemicals. It's too expensive for them to do that. And so probably 99% of the coconut oil available in the store, whether it says it's organic or not, is probably organic.
Yes, I feel the same is true. The only thing that I'd possibly disagree slightly with you is, regrettably, in Southeast Asia, chemicals are arriving thick and fast. But my understanding is that perhaps coconuts hardly need the chemicals, because almost nothing can attack a coconut anyway. You can't imagine an insect making too much of a dent on the outside of a coconut.
Well, yeah, it's hard to get into those things. Yeah, have you ever tried to open one yourself?
Quite good at it now. I did a fast a few years ago out in Thailand, and the only thing we were allowed to eat was fresh, green coconuts. And it was fantastic. And they explained to me, I don't know whether you'd agree, that they said, well, not only could you live on coconuts probably for months without any harm, but we could actually do a blood transfusion with the pure green coconut water, and you do fine on that. Have you heard that?
Well, that is true. The coconut contains enough nutrients in itself to sustain you for months. In fact, people have had to rely on coconuts entirely for months, particularly those who have been stranded on islands and all they had available to them were coconuts. They would live on these coconuts. In fact, there was a story that came from the earthquake that was in Indonesia about 5 or 6 years ago, if you remember that, the huge earthquake that caused the tsunamis and all that they found people on islands, and after several months, and they survived on the coconuts that had fallen and washed ashore, and they were eating that, and that's what saved them. And what you mentioned also about the IVs with coconut water, yes, I mean, that is really fascinating. Coconut water, which is the water inside the coconut, when you pick up a coconut and you shake it and you hear that swishing, that's coconut water. That can be channeled directly into your bloodstream, because the makeup of the water, the mineral content, the sugar content is very similar to human blood. And people have been, or doctors have been doing that ever since World War II, during the fighting in World War II, when they didn't have commercial IV solutions available. They would pick a young coconut off the tree, and the simplest way to administer the water would be to get a syringe, make a hole in the coconut, stick the syringe into the hole, and have a rubber tube attached to the end, and on the other end would be another syringe, and they would stick that into the vein of the patient and allow the water from the coconut to drain into the bloodstream. And there are actually dozens of medical studies where doctors have evaluated the use of fresh coconut water as an IV solution, and it works just as well as the commercial solutions.
That's amazing. I'm just turning on my camera again. Just decided to switch itself off again. Please forgive me. And one of the other fabulous things, of course, about coconut oil is its weight loss abilities. What have you seen in that department?
People find that kind of funny. Here, you can actually use coconut oil, to lose fat, because people automatically think, fat is fattening. Coconut oil being fat is fattening. But no, just the opposite. Coconut oil can be used to help you lose excess weight. Basically, there are 3 reasons why that happens. One is that coconut oil actually has fewer calories than other fats. So if you replaced all the other oils in your diet with coconut oil, you would be consuming fewer calories, and that would help contribute to weight loss. Second, and more important reason, is that coconut oil has the ability to satisfy hunger. And so if you just add coconut oil into a meal, it will satisfy hunger sooner, and it will satisfy your hunger longer, so that you don't have a tendency to want to snack between meals. And when your next meal comes along, you won't be so starved that you want to overeat at the other meal. And they've done studies with this showing that if people have a meal with coconut oil in it, that they don't overeat, they don't snack, and they don't overeat at the next meal. And so at the end of the day, they actually end up consuming fewer calories. Now, the third reason, and probably the most important of all of these reasons, is that coconut oil, or the medium-chain fatty acids in coconut oil, actually digest much quicker than the fatty acids in other fats, the longer chain fatty acids. And in so doing, the oil is channeled, or the medium chain fatty acids are channeled to the liver. And when the liver receives them, it says, oh, goody, sources of energy, and it starts using them to produce energy. So you get a boost in energy. And this boost in energy that you receive actually kicks your metabolism up into a higher rate, so that you burn off calories at an accelerated rate. And so at the end of the day, there are fewer calories left over to be converted into body fat. Studies have shown that after a single meal containing the medium chain fatty acids, normal weight people, their metabolism increases by 48%. But what's even more interesting is that in overweight, in obese people, after a single meal, their metabolism increases by much as 65%. So the more overweight a person is, the more effect coconut oil has on stimulating their metabolism. Also, studies have shown that after a single meal containing the medium chain fatty acids, that metabolism rises and remains elevated for a full 24 hours. So for 24 hours, your metabolism is raised and you're burning calories off at an accelerated rate. Researchers at McGill University in Canada have calculated that if a person replaced all the oils in their diet that they're currently using with an oil composed of medium chain fatty acids, that they could lose up to 36 pounds or about 14 kilograms a year without changing their diet or without cutting down on the amount of foods that they eat. Clive, are you still there?
We can't hear you, Clive.
Right. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
My apologies. It is the most amazing food. Most surprising. I can't think of any other food that does half of what this one does. It is truly amazing. And not only can you eat it, you can put it on the skin as well.
Oh, on the skin, it's marvelous. In fact, I don't know any skin lotion, salve, or treatment that can come close to matching all the things that coconut oil can do on your skin. If you have dry, rough skin, as many people do, just using the coconut oil daily can give you soft, smooth skin. And it works quick. Within a week or two, rough, dry, flaky skin can become as smooth as a baby's bottom. And I recommend using coconut oil for any type of skin condition. If you have eczema, psoriasis, coconut oil can help tremendously. Now, it may not be able to cure every case of eczema or psoriasis, but in many cases it can, or at least make it a lot better. It's also wonderful for acne. People kind of say, what? Put oil on my face to cure acne? Won't that make it worse? No, it actually helps with that. One of the things about coconut oil, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is its antimicrobial effects, its ability to kill bacteria. And one of the bacteria that it kills is those that cause acne. And so you can put it on your skin and it will not make your face oily. If you put corn oil or soybean oil or one of these other vegetable oils on your face or on your skin, it will stay on your skin and be greasy all day long. But not so with coconut oil. Coconut oil easily absorbs into the skin as long as you don't pour it on so you're dripping wet, but just put on a thin layer. Within a minute, the oil is absorbed into the skin where it can do its work of healing and revitalizing the skin, protecting it from free radicals that cause the wrinkling and sagging of skin. It also has a very therapeutic effect on skin. It's great for things like warts and moles. It can help if you use it constantly every day. It can get rid of these things. It helps smooth out the skin. If someone is pregnant, I recommend to them, start using coconut oil on your abdomen every day, at least once a day or twice a day. And after the baby comes, you will not have stretch marks, and it works every time. It's also good for injuries. So if you get a cut or a burn, an insect bite, a sunburn, coconut oil will speed the recovery. In fact, in regards to the sunburn, coconut oil is an excellent sunscreen. In fact, it is the original sunscreen. The islanders in the Pacific have been using coconut oil for thousands of years. In fact, the tradition among them is that every morning when they get up, they put a layer of coconut oil all over their skin, and it protects them from the hot tropical sun. So they have beautiful, healthy skin. In fact, when a baby is born, one of the very first things that the mother does is to put coconut oil all over her baby's skin. And from day one until the day they die, this is a regular thing they do, is to put the coconut oil all over their skin. And me, I'm very fair-skinned, and I burn very easily. If I go out into the sun, if I'm out in the sun more than 15 or 20 minutes, I get a sunburn. However, if I put coconut oil on my skin before going out in the sun, I can go out in the sun, even in the tropics where it's very hot and the sun is very intense, and I can stay in the sun for 5 or 6 hours without any sunburn, without any problem. Now, coconut oil, because of its antimicrobial effects, are great for skin infections, particularly fungal type infections, things that cause ringworm, athlete's foot, jock itch, stuff like that. It's also great against dandruff, and dandruff is caused by fungus, believe it or not. And if you use coconut oil in your hair, all you need to do is rub it into the scalp, let it sit for a while, and then wash it out. You can completely control your dandruff. I used to have a horrible case of dandruff and had for many, many, many years. And now I just wash my hair a couple of days a week using coconut oil, and I have no problem with dandruff. So coconut oil is excellent for the skin on almost any type of skin condition.
Now, we don't have a lot of time left, so the most important thing, I think, is to tell people where they can buy your books, because I think a lot of people are going to be quite amazed by what they've learned. And bearing in mind you're just talking about one product, imagine how great it would be if they read the whole book and found out all the further details about this. So perhaps you could give your website details and explain to us how they can find you.
Sure. We've really only hit the top, just some of the aspects of coconut oil. There are many more, and I describe these in my books. Probably the best way for people in the UK to get a hold of my books is from Amazon.com. Amazon.com carries all of my books, and so it's easy just to order it from them.
Right, very good. Very good. And if they were just to buy one book, which one would you like them to get?
Well, if they just want a basic introduction to the wonderful benefits of coconut oil, I would recommend the book called The Coconut Oil Miracle. It's a good introduction. If they want one that's for brain health, for Alzheimer's, then Stop Alzheimer's Now would be a good one.
Right. Excellent.
Clive, can I interrupt a wee second?
Yes.
There are two questions in the chat box. Basically, one question is are coconuts related to nuts, and therefore is there a danger for people with nut allergies? And the other question is, is there any care that needs to be taken giving coconut oil to very young children?
Well,
there is no problem with giving coconut oil to very young children. Even babies can receive coconut oil. And one of the great things about coconut oil is it's hypoallergenic, meaning that it very rarely causes allergies. And so people who have a tendency to have allergies can generally safely use coconut oil or coconut. Coconut isn't technically a nut, it is a seed. And people who have allergies to tree nuts generally can handle coconut without any problem.
Right, excellent. Well, look, I'd like to thank you very, very much for coming along, because it's been fascinating, and I think the information is just amazing and clearly needs to be spread around the world. And I advise anybody who's watched this and enjoyed this to please send it to everybody they know and ask them, if it's on Facebook, for instance, not just to like it, because that does nothing, but to actually share it and keep sharing it around. So, Bruce, thank you so much for coming on the show. And to the viewers, I'm sure they can find coconut oil, but I've been searching around for the ones that actually taste the nicest, and my business partner and I have tried so many different types available in the UK, and we've found one which is just fantastic, and people absolutely love it. So it's available on the ancientpurity.com website if you want to visit there, as are lots of other things. Or just lastly, I should say, Bruce, that with eczema and psoriasis, I found almost 100% success with fulvic minerals. And obviously, like everything, there's differences in quality of fulvic minerals. But the fulvic minerals we've been using are just stupendous. First time I tried them, I felt a different person the very next day. And I don't know if you've been trying fulvic minerals, but if not, I can post some to you, and you can try the dramatic effect.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So thank you all for viewing, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.